Hi again, this is Omid. I'm here with another lesson from Phoenix English. And today's lesson is a little bit complicated, but a little bit basic at the same time. Today we are going to look at the passive form of the verb. Now, before we get to look at the more complicated things, like the 4 reasons to use the passive, let's have a very quick review of what is a passive and how do we construct it. So, if we look at a basic sentence, the cat ate the rat. We have our subject, we have our verb, and we have our object. Very simple. What we have to remember is that in this sentence, the subject is doing the action to the object. In a passive sentence, we are reversing this order. Okay, we are going now this way. What was the object is now the subject. And we have a verb, was eaten. But the cat is now less important. If we want to say it, we say it. If we don't, we take it out. But this is now not an object. We call this now the agent, the person or thing that is doing the action. So the difference is here that the subject is now receiving the action. How do we create the passive? Be verb plus the past participle. Verb 3, some of you call it. Okay, no problem. Now, what we have to concentrate on is the 4 reasons we use the passive. Students always ask me, I know how to use the passive, but why am I using the passive? I can communicate easily, I can speak easily, I can write easily, and never use the passive. Of course you can, but there are reasons to use it. The first reason that we would use a passive is because the subject is unknown, obvious, or not important. If we don't know who or what did the action, we can use a passive. If we know very clearly, it's very obvious who did the action, then we can use a passive. If the person or thing that did the action is just not important to our sentence, we can take it out and use the passive. I'm going to give you some examples, don't worry. Another reason, and a very important reason, especially when you're writing, is to shift focus of subject. If you want the object of your last sentence to now be the subject of your next sentence, you can use the passive to make that switch. Remember, the cat ate the rat? We switched it. The rat was eaten by the cat. Now, again, coming back to that question, I don't need to use it. I can communicate easily without it. Yes, of course you can, but you want sentence variety. If you say, he did this, he did that, then he did this, then he did that, that's very boring. Nobody wants to listen to it. Really, nobody wants to read it. Trust me. And the last reason is for coherence. To make it something very understandable and flow. To make your, especially writing, flow from one sentence to the next, one idea to the next. Makes it more enjoyable for the reader. Now, let's look at some specific examples of each one of these reasons. So let's look at subject is unknown, obvious, not important first. The building was vandalized. Now, first of all, what does vandalized mean? Vandalized means that somebody came and did some damage to the building. Maybe they spray painted, maybe they broke some windows, etc. So, who did this? We don't know. I could say that vandals did this, but I don't need to say it. That comes from the word, it's obvious. I could say that somebody did this, but why? Better to use the passive and concentrate on the building and what happened to it. The flowers were delivered on time. Who delivered it? Well, it's obvious. Either the flower company or the delivery company. I don't need to say it. It's very clear that one of these two delivered the flowers. The roads were fixed quickly. Who fixed them? Who cares? They're fixed. That's what's important. I can drive, I'm happy. Now, we can also use the passive, and we commonly use the passive to give information. The airplane was invented in the early 20th century. Exactly when? I don't want to say. Who invented it? I don't want to say. Why, maybe there is a little controversy there. Maybe not everybody believes the Wright brothers invented the airplane in 1903. So, what do I want to concentrate on? The airplane. That's why I'm using the passive. We have to choose what is more important and what is less important. So, this is the main reason. This is the most common reason we use the passive. Okay? Let's look at some of the reasons. Let's look at the third reason. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten number 2. I'm gonna do that after. First, I want to look at sentence variety. Now, why is this important? This is especially important for any of you who are gonna take the IELTS or TOEFL. Why? Because you're gonna have to write an essay. Many points come with this little topic here, sentence variety. So now, you could write all your sentences in a standard subject, verb, object way. You could say, he did A, then he did B, after that he did C. What is the problem with this? No problem. Grammatically, it's okay. In terms of English, you can put nice words in here. Okay, what is the problem? The problem is that it is boring. You don't want a boring essay. You want a fun, lively, engaging essay. This is what the readers are looking for, right? So, how does the passive come into play here? You ask yourself. Well, I'll tell you. The passive allows you to play with sentence structure. So it allows you to have different varieties of sentences. He did A, same start. C wasn't done until he had completed B. Not only do you have a passive, you have a past perfect. Bravo. Extra points for you if you can do this. But first, you got to have that passive. You got to get to that passive first. Okay? This gives you sentence variety. Now, when you see the next part, you'll see reasons number 2 and 4 together. You'll understand even more how the passive can create nice sentences, create good flow, make it all easier, and focus the reader's attention on exactly what you want them to. Okay? The passive is very powerful. Remember this. Let's look at the next examples. Now we come to what is probably the most important reason to use the passive. We are looking at shifting focus and creating flow in our writing. So, for example, you're writing an essay about Coca-Cola. What is the most important thing you're gonna talk about? Of course, it's Coca-Cola, right? So you want this to be your subject. John Pemberton invented Coca-Cola. We don't really care about John Pemberton. We care about what he invented. So we switch around the sentence, right? Coca-Cola was invented by a pharmacist named John Pemberton. Easy. We put the focus on the Coca-Cola. The other information comes later. Now, because he is the last idea we have here, we want to start with him. His original recipe contained cocaine. Okay, regular sentence, active voice. Why? Because we have John Pemberton, we want to continue with John Pemberton. But now, we want to introduce another new idea. Okay? Which is why the drink was named Coca-Cola. I want to bring the reader back to my original subject, Coca-Cola. So the passive is used for placement. Where do you want to put your topics? Where do you want to put your subject? Where do you want to put your object? Where do you want to put your agent, for that matter? So now, the last idea I'm speaking about is the name Coca-Cola. Remember, this is very important. Today, Coca-Cola, again, I'm talking about the name, the product, is a global brand. What is a brand? A brand is basically a name. right? You see how I connected the ideas? I kept them close to each other. This is where you get flow. This makes it easy for the reader to follow your ideas. So, today, Coca-Cola is a global brand that is consumed by millions of people. Now here, I could say, Coca-Cola is a global brand that millions of people consume. But the millions of people, they're not important. What is important is consumption. This is what you want to focus on. So, what do? You put it in the passive. You bring it closer to your original idea, brand. So, I hope you understand what I did here. I placed focus on the subject I wanted to. I connected ideas together to create flow. And most of all, I have sentence variety. Everybody's happy, and who is the happiest? You, when you get your IELTS or TOEFL score. Okay? Great. Thank you very much for joining me today. Please come back and visit my YouTube channel again. Thank you very much.